much, Ms. Fatima. Our next guest speaker for the day is Dilesh Deepak Dattani. Dilesh is a veteran IT practitioner with experience spanning across multiple domains, including healthcare. Prior to BestDoc, Dilesh worked as an SEM consultant at Infosys, leading various global transformational programs. At BestDoc, Dilesh leads the product management function, shipping delightful experiences to users. He has led the development of 8 products across OP and IP at BestDoc that have touched the lives of over 3 million patients so far. Dilesh has a PGDBM from TapMy, Manipal. Over to Dilesh.
Thank you for the lovely introduction. Good morning, everyone. So today's topic, which I have been asked to speak about, is effective feedback system, something which I'm personally very passionate about. I'll talk about my company first, where I come from, BestDoc Technology Services Limited. We are a SaaS-based intelligent PRM solution. We call ourselves Patient Relationship Management Firm. We've been working in this space for the past 6 years now. Started in 2016. We've been working with about 250 plus hospitals now, with 40, spanning across 40 cities. 7 million appointments booked through us, 4 million patients served. So that's a short about our experience so far. Now, moving on to the topic, that is feedback. We all know that feedback is a source of continuous improvement, right? Any system, any process, for that matter, personal improvement as well. We seek feedback from different sources, and that's the way we improve ourselves. So it's very important that feedback is collected and acted upon, right? So that's the first point which I have. Why patient feedback? We need to improve ourselves. That's the basic thing. It also gives a sense of care to the patients. As the previous speaker, Ms. Fatima, talked about, patients need to be heard, right? They need to feel the sense that they are being heard for. And that sense of care, that is through feedback, right? Apart from that, I believe all healthcare organizations are formed with some vision, some motive. Now, how do you know whether the motive with which you started the organization is being pursued by all the employee staff members in your organization? That is through feedback. Again, it helps you gauge your effort versus the desired results which you're getting. Feedback as a source of motivation. This again is an interesting point, because what we have observed is when the employees of your organization, healthcare organizations, are told that they have received an applause from a patient, that motivates them to do better. It's a positive reinforcement which you're giving there, right? Helping you assess the quality of care, both clinical and non-clinical. A small statistic here, what I've read recently is more than 60% of patients choose a particular doctor or a hospital by reading their feedback online, right? So that's an important statistic, and that keeps growing. So as the millennials are getting into this 20s and the 30s, they will be more and more adopting technologies and going online, and they will be reading feedbacks. So that is very important. Now, let us first understand the traditional feedback mechanisms, right? We started off, I would say, about 15 years back or so, where pen and paper was a traditional method of taking feedback. We've seen this in multiple places, not only in healthcare organizations, but in many other places. We've seen in railways, we've seen in flights where you have handed out a feedback form, you fill it up. So what are the pros and cons? We all know that it's cost effective, very simple to implement. But how easy it is to collate this information and take actionable steps, right? What is the response rate we see with this kind of feedback? Probably about 2% or so. Is that good enough for us? Definitely not. How effort intensive it is. So somebody writes it on a piece of paper, you have somebody transcripting it into a system, and then you sit and analyze. So just imagine the effort involved there. Then we had call centers as well, calling the patients, taking the feedback. So here what happens is, how many times you have seen that you receive calls from, say, insurance agents or credit cards, very famous, right? We are doing something, in the middle of that the call comes in. It is found to be invasive. What we understood is people don't like it if they are called on times where they don't want to be called for, right? So that's invasiveness is there. And again, cost. You spending effort or spending your resource to dedicatedly call patients to take a feedback, how cost effective it is. So those are the cons there. Then we come to email-based surveys, a higher step there where email became ubiquitous, but again, we've seen that the response rates there are abysmal. So how many times we have seen so many feedback emails in our mailbox and they are just not just spam, and we never go back to give response from there. Of course, the reach is there and it is cost effective, but yeah, you will miss out on those people who don't have email IDs or things like that, and you have lesser response rate. Now, let us talk about how the transformation is happening, or what is the next step for feedback collection systems, right? According to me, what I feel is a feedback collection system needs to have some key things incorporated within it. It has to be goal-oriented. There has to be a goal set, and then you implement that system, and you track yourself against that goal. Feedback collection has to be timely. Again, another statistic which I came across here is 73% of the patients would want to be asked for feedback, say within 24 hours of them visiting the facility, right? So that's timeliness, reach. Now, if you have 100 patients visiting you, you would want to cover all the 100 patients in your feedback systems. So that's a very important factor as well, because the dropout rates would be higher, and hence the more you reach out, the better percentage you will get in terms of feedback. Then closing the loop. Again, Dr. Manivaran and my previous speaker also talked about it. If you have taken the feedback from a patient, the patient feels that you have heard them. Now, what have you done with that? Very important. You have to have effective system to close the loop, which means you take some action for this feedback, and then you communicate it back to the patient, saying that such and such action has been taken. And the next time the patient or his relatives come over, they see that change, and that reinforces that the feedback which they have given has indeed got them something out of it, right? So that's very important. So with these key tenets for an effective feedback system, I would like to touch upon another aspect of the new generation, millennials specifically, and of course, in general, what we see now, social media penetration. We know that that's the buzzword these days, right? Social media. Everybody is there on social media. Again, some of the statistics out there will tell you. We have close to about 50% internet penetration in India with 130 crore population. And what we have known is that more than about 70% of the internet users are on social media, right? And that is a huge number. So that is where actually our audiences are. Again, WhatsApp user, which our previous speakers talked about, is so ubiquitous, right? We have around 500 million plus active users in India using WhatsApp. That's a huge number, and that's where actually the audience is, the target audience for us, right? Facebook, again, FB messengers, Instagram, Twitter, these are the means whereby which the new age folks are, hooked on, right? What does this all tell us? The bottom line is, we have to reach out to the audience where they are, right? Now, I'll talk about some of the experiences which we had in implementing feedback systems over the past 6 years. So, Best Stop started off the feedback collection mechanism with a couple of products, which is tab-based feedback and IVR-based feedback. So what we saw was, whenever we send out an IVR call, which is telling the patient that the intention is collection of feedback during the times where they are relatively free, and making it very simple, we can tend to get more response rates. I'll talk about the response rates in the subsequent slides as well. So that's a learning which we had, IVR-based feedback. Tab-based feedback was another thing where we thought, if an IP patient who is already admitted is given a tab and asked to fill up a feedback on the day of the discharge, the chances of giving a feedback is much better there, right? Then we evolved during the COVID times where touch was a problem. We evolved on to introducing QR codes where people could just scan the QR code with your phone. You don't even need to have any apps there. You just scan the QR code with your Google Chrome and you can see the feedback form coming up and then you can fill it out. Again, during the COVID times, we further innovated there and adopted WhatsApp. What I just talked about the people, our target audience being there in the social media and WhatsApp, we decided to reach out to them through WhatsApp. So we introduced WhatsApp-based feedback, and again, I will talk about the response rates of that as well. We evolved a little further, making it a conversational kind of a feedback on WhatsApp itself, like inline feedback. Again, the funda was very simple. Try to reach out to your audience where they are. Secondly, make it least objection, that they can give the feedback very fast, right? And of course, the common measures for feedback, we all know NPS, Dr. Manivaran talked about that, Net Promoter Score, Customer Satisfaction Score, that is another score we enable organizations to measure. Customer Effort Score, this is something new, but yeah, I mean, it has been there for some time, where you measure what is the effort which the customer takes to get a request resolved, right? So how do we calculate the customer effort score and then use it? Now, our learnings in terms of percentage response rate. With the IVR kind of a feedback, we could see close to 12 to 15% feedback. So organizations who are grappling with 2 to 3% feedback, we were able to make it to 12, 15%. But the point here is IVR-based feedback can capture lesser information, of course. It can be like happy, not happy. If you make it more lengthier, again, you have more objection from the people side to give feedback, right? SMS-based feedback, where you send out links to the patients. Again, links are not, I mean, I would say those are very passive mechanisms, so the response rates would also be in a lesser percentage. WhatsApp, that was earlier Dr. Manivaran and Ms. Fatima also talked about it. WhatsApp is where we found we could get the max response rate, and in that WhatsApp itself, making it inline, making it interactive. Now we are exploring how we can make it chat-based, how we can introduce voice-based feedback, and then provide an easier mechanism for the patients to voice their feedback. Now, as Ms. Fatima also mentioned, there's no one-size-fits-all, right? So what do? We adopt a mix of all these mechanisms. We have, schedules where in the morning a WhatsApp goes out, in the afternoon, if you don't receive feedback from those who receive the WhatsApp messages, we send out another nudge, maybe an SMS-based feedback. And if you don't receive a feedback there, we send out an email in the evening, or then call, right? So multiple modes to be used together, and then you would see the response rate would naturally go up. Success factors, as I mentioned earlier, offer the path for least resistance. Try to make it as interactive as possible with your patients. Ms. Fatima touched about this point about gamification. A very interesting point. Why don't you incentivize your patients or others to give feedback, right? The moment you do that, you will see that people are getting engaged more, and they will definitely speak out more and respond to your surveys. Gauge your customers' preferred digital channels. Again, once you have sent out a feedback mechanism, try to see this particular patient has given me feedback through this channel, that is his preferred mode of communication. Try to send out more information through that modes of communication, those modes of communication. Personalize, make it dynamic. I cannot stress this point more. It has to be dynamic. Until and unless it is dynamic, it will be very boring for the patients and they wouldn't respond. So try to make it dynamic, try to make it interactive in nature. Be ready to learn and evolve. So this reminds me of the PDSA cycle, what we call as plan, do, study, act. It's a continuous cycle. There's this author called McGowan who has written about this. You can Google it up. Very interesting piece of article where he says that you plan to implement some systems, right? You plan, you do that, execute it, come back and analyze whether have you got the desired result. So that's where goal setting becomes very important. You set a goal, you measure it, then you learn from it. You would have done some mistakes, correct them, go back again, iterative way, again go and act on the new plan, and that's a continuous improvement cycle. Even NABH tells about that continuous improvement cycle, right? So plan, do, study, act. It's a very important mantra, and we should keep on doing that. And that's what we believe in as well. Coming on to the case studies, what we observed from implementing a feedback system which was a combination of what I talked about, right? Narayana Health, 26 centers, everybody knows it's a chain of well-known chain in India. They came to us a couple of years back stating this problem about feedback, saying that we have not been able to get enough feedback from the patients. 3% is what was the number quoted, and we decided to use these multiple modes of communication to make sure that we increase the feedback at least 4 times, and now it is around 12 to 15%. So that's the kind of returns you get when you invest in these kind of mechanisms for collecting feedback. We have seen that the average rating has improved. Again, as I mentioned, most of the millennials are on the internet. They would Google up before they come to a hospital or visit a doctor. It's very important that the reputation of that hospital is managed, and that's through these feedback mechanisms. So as soon as you get a positive feedback, send out a link to them asking them to rate you on the Google, or put a voice message and then have it in your Google ratings, Google page. That would obviously increase your visibility, and of course, more and more patients would prefer you over others. What we have seen in Narayana Health is gradually over the past 1.5 years, the number of tickets have come down in different areas, and the statistics are there. Radiology department, pharmacy department, 50%, casualty, 49% reduction in the tickets. Overall, 29% reduction in the tickets. So that's a success story, and we continue to innovate further by bringing in conversational and voice-based feedback. As I mentioned about Google ratings, you can see the percentage ratings for individual centers have increased by 3 percentage points, 5 percentage points, sorry, 0.3 and 0.5 and 0.4. So that's the kind of improvement we would be able to see if all these methods are used together. And of course, we have to continuously improve, learn from what we are looking at, what the results are, and keep on improving. Thank you. I'm open to any questions if you have, or you can connect with me or write to us here if you have any queries, any suggestions, anything. We'd be happy to take that. Thank you, everyone.